Welcome to this edition of City Prepping's News to Watch this week. There's still a good amount of things that you should be aware of this week in the headlines. If we haven't met before, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. In this video segment, what I'll try to do is provide you with the essential news items to watch this week with specific intent to inform your prepping activities. I try to steer clear of the politics and punditry to give you the real gist of what is happening, what you need to know, and what you should do to prepare. I hope it makes a very uncertain future clear for you. This week, we're going to address the following. We'll go over the U.S. midterm elections that are right around the corner. We're going to discuss an event that could spark political upheaval that's on the horizon. We're going to talk about, of course, Russia and Ukraine, the threat posed by Iran, the economy, and the Polycrisis that we currently face. We'll also momentarily announce the winner of last week's giveaway, along with the giveaway that we're doing this week, so definitely stick around. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. Political upheaval. The midterm elections in the United States are on November 8th, which is a week from today, and there are already several different court cases being filed contesting voting procedures and the efficacy of early voting and mail-in ballots. This election will be probably as contentious as the last national election. Pundits and politicians, they're doing very little to calm public opinion as we go into this election. Still, regardless of the actual outcome, one thing is for sure. The losing side will feel cheated, and the winning side will feel threatened. Court cases will ensue, public confidence in the election system will continue to erode further. Rhetoric will be hot and confrontational. Weaker minds will succumb to sophistry and may incline to act upon their impulses. There isn't an easy way to say this. We have seen violent groups attack citizens, buildings, politicians, and now even the family members of politicians. These violent actors, well, it doesn't really matter which side of the political spectrum they're on or if they're even on a political side at all. What matters is that you stay safe. I would encourage you to vote. It is your right and often your only opportunity to have your voice heard. Be aware of what is illegal and illegal activity near polling locations. Avoid areas where civil disorder is possible. Just basically keep your head on a swivel and practice situational awareness this week and next. There isn't a color-coded index for that threat level like the terrorism threat, but if there were, we would be moving from yellow to orange. Realize too that we are so divided at the moment as a country and so politically charged. Foreign adversaries that would do us harm have perfect fertile soil to incite further conflict between us. What do you think? Do you think your area will see any conflict with this election cycle? Would you be wise to stock up a little bit more right now? Russia, Ukraine. As winter inches closer and closer to Ukraine and Russia, the war enters a new phase. Russia is focusing more intensely on destroying Ukrainian infrastructures like water and electricity. They're also seeking to deter export activities, which will mean fewer agricultural products for smaller countries dependent upon such aid. This will make it brutally difficult for Ukrainian citizens and could lead to a larger humanitarian crisis. We're really beginning to see the beginnings of a humanitarian crisis in Poland even at the moment. The Ukrainian forces are continuing to make small gains, primarily in the Donetsk and Kherson regions. They also have had high-profile strikes on the Russian fleet using remote kamikaze boat drones. Moscow is accusing the UK of assisting in these attacks. When it comes to this war spilling over borders, a missile was shot down and debris landed in Moldova. The target was a dam where the water eventually flowed into Moldova. This brought a strong condemnation of Russian aggression from the Moldovan Foreign Ministry. All of these things signal the same basic strategy and outcome. Russia plans on making life very difficult for Ukrainian citizens. And this war will slow down on the ground because of mud, but will expand into the air and at sea. If there is no resolution through winter, it will explode again on the eastern border between Russia and Ukraine with spring. Expect drone and missile warfare to continue. The most significant loss of life will be civilian as winter sets in further. If you're not near the affected zones, you can expect the global loss of productivity, food, and fuel to drag down economies further and create shortages. Watch for a growing humanitarian crisis. Are you personally feeling the Russian-Ukrainian conflict far from the war zone? If so, how? Let us know its impact directly on you in the comments below. Iran. The people of Iran are engaged in a civil war of sorts against the religious leaders of the Islamic Republic. Iran has practiced isolationism with most of the world since the revolution in the late 70s. So most of the world is impacted by the economies of its internal strife. Much of the world is rooting for the Iranian people, though I doubt any government will step in to arm or organize the civilian uprisings directly. This situation, it's potentially going to reach a conclusion at some point, and that will either be a religious Islamic republic maintaining control or falling apart. For the rest of the world, the biggest threat is the armaments and nuclear materials that Iran holds. We saw something similar with the fall of the Soviet Union, where the world was on hyper alert for illegal sales and transfers of armaments and nuclear material as people sought to make a quick ruble for the complete collapse. Already, it is well known that Iranian troops and drones are engaging along with Russia in the war against Ukraine. While that human support may dwindle as the situation at home escalates, material support and transfer to Russia or North Korea of armaments and nuclear materials could become more probable. Keep an eye on the news as we are for any further armament transfers from the Islamic Republic of Iran. Is this the beginning of the end of countries ruled by religious authority? What do you think? Have we anything to fear here? Now, before we move on, let me announce the winner of last week's giveaway. Again, to be eligible, you must just simply leave a comment on this video and have your email viewable from your profile page. I want to emphasize before I move on that I will not email you unless I actually announce you as a winner in the video. Also, don't use WhatsApp or Telegram with this channel. I don't have an account on either one of those platforms. There are scammers out there that will use our logo and try to present themselves as me. They're not me. I will only reach out to you if I publicly announce you as a winner, as I'm about to do now. This week's winner of the wool blanket is Robert Chadwick. Robert, I'll be emailing you shortly to get that information to send that gift off to you. So congrats. Economy. We cover the health or frailty of the economy almost every week on this channel, and that's because our supply chains are really all tied to it, and things don't appear to improve anytime soon on this front. It's also something that we see daily in the form of inflation, higher interest rates, and our currency being less and less. Governments, they tend to rise and fall based on the health of their economies. So it's essential to keep a pulse and temperature reading of it, but that goes beyond just your grocery bill. That's really the point that I want to make here too. I don't think that there's a country on the planet right now that isn't suffering some severe economic problems at the moment. And this is not just isolated in our country alone. It's well known that productivity here and abroad is dropping. Between the pandemic, lockdown, supply chain disruptions, reduced manufacturing output, peak demand during low inventories, then high inventories and minimal demand, potential railway strikes and trucking strikes, Brexit, the gas pipelines, and Europe's dependence on Russian oil and natural gas, and a host of, you name it, several other reasons. The entire world is really suffering from an economic retraction. Let's use a simple analogy here to try to explain this issue. Let's say we have built a combustion engine, then a car, and then later we built better wheels for it and made other advancements. Fine-tune it for maximum possible speed, but suddenly we can't get gas for it anymore. How far removed are we from the first creation of that combustion engine to this point today? And that's how far we are away from transporting goods via horse-drawn wagons. Our ocean liners, trucks, trains, and planes, they put products at our fingertips for next day or same day delivery even, but that can all evaporate very quickly. When it does, we can't simply just fall back on our long ago forgotten systems. It's easy to see no further than just our borders and put all the blame on our local or national leaders or organizations. After all, your immediate wallet and food supply are impacted the most. And that's very personal and very up close. Realize, though, that most of the world's economies are suffering from a just-in-time global supply chain that may not return to its fine-tuned performance, if ever again. Every prep that you put in place and every move you make to increase your self-sufficiency will lessen the impact these collapsing supply chains will have on you. Every prep that you put in place now will be your best insurance against further global economic downturns. And understand that there's not a country that will not be involved in this economic slide at some point. Do you think your local community is seeing the bigger picture, or are they only seeing the local economy? Polycrisis. I know in several videos I've warned about compounding crisis. That's to say that a supply chain failure because of a port or manufacturer shutting down in China could result in your not having the part of your municipal water plant so that after a deluge, your pumping processes cease to work in your town or city and no repair parts are available. I'm not saying that Jackson, Mississippi here, but I could. I recently came across an article, which I'm going to link to in the description section below, that terms these compounding crises with the term polycrisis. The term is attributed to French theorist Igor Morin. A polycrisis is when seemingly disparate shocks interact so that the whole is far worse than the sum of its parts. A problem becomes a crisis when it exceeds our ability to cope, when it exceeds our preps. And I think the term is essential here because we could find or work towards a single solution when it was one or two major crises. We could assign blame to a single cause or a perceived problem and then focus our attention on solving or regulating that instigator of the crisis. When you have many crises that all compound upon one another, it is far more difficult, if not impossible, to blame a single cause or work collectively towards a single solution. Instead of ever finding a collective solution, we just observe it all unraveling further and further. So what does that all mean? As the article that I'll again reference and I'll post a link to below concludes, if you have found the past several years stressful and disorienting, if your life has already been disrupted, it is time to brace. Our tightrope walk with no end is only going to become more precarious and nerve-wracking. Prepping changes this equation and outcome for an individual threat. It may not stop the war, the storm, or Great Recession from coming, but it changes your ability to weather such events. Prepping really provides you with a more solid footing, another layer of protection from the inevitable. If the last few years have taught us anything, it is that our systems are fragile and susceptible to greater and greater failure. It's that the collapse of one system can compound the pressures of another system and then lead to even greater collapses. This is why you should be preparing. This is why you should be learning new skills like growing your own food. And this is why you should be looking at ways to become more self-sufficient and less dependent upon fragile supply chains and global systems that rely upon alliances that are collapsing, unfortunately, in real time. And look, I hate to end this video with such a heavy sentiment, but I think it's important that you think about the gravity of the current times that we live in, and it's imperative that you begin to, or even continue to prepare as you've probably been doing so far. I'll be doing some videos. Again, I mentioned a moment ago the need to learn gardening skills. As I mentioned in the video that I released last Sunday, a couple of days ago, we're going to be rolling out a series of videos that will go into solid, rather kind of a step-by-step process of gardening for anyone looking to grow in a minimal space, output maximum calories with minimal skill sets. I know that's a tall order, but we're working over the next few months on releasing these videos as we lead into spring so that hopefully we'll give you time to get your ducks in a row, so to speak, as you learn as we roll these videos out. All right, everyone. As always, stay safe out there.